Europe owes its present-day look to the ideas of this man. His doctrine created not only a new church, but also a new morality. The whole historical epoch is connected with his name. The beginning of the 16th century can be called the epoch of Martin Luther, who was the founder of Protestantism and father of Reformation. Martin Luther was born in a small German town of Eisleben. The young man inherited rugged features of a commoner and ineradicable obstinacy from his father, a rich peasant. His parents dreamt that his offspring would be certainly a lawyer, and with pleasure paid a considerable sum for textbooks. When a student of the Faculty of Law at Erfurt University, Martin learned to deliver long and serious speeches and was nicknamed philosopher for this. According to an old student custom, the future lawyer was earning his living by singing and playing the lute in the streets, and he was a considerable success. Ursula Kott, a patrician, noticed the talented youth and proposed Martin to become a tutor of her children. In this rich house he, for the first time, met preachers who impressed him deeply with their freedom of thinking. On the 2nd of July 1505, Luther was caught by heavy thunderstorm in the field. Frightened at the violence of nature, Martin, who was 22 then, exclaimed, "Save me, Saint Anne, and I'll become a monk." To keep his vow, he sold his books and entered an Augustinian monastery, famous for particular severity of its regulations. Later on, Martin Luther wrote, "I have become God's servant not of my own free will, but strengthened by the terror I went through." Luther started studying the Bible profoundly. After becoming Doctor of Theology, Martin Luther delivered lectures at the University of Wittenberg. In 1510, Luther visited Rome, where he saw opulence and depravity of the upper clergy with his own eyes. His affections of an ardent Catholic were wounded, and his especial indignation was roused by the fact that any person could buy an indulgences and in that way get forgiveness of the most terrible sins for money. His protest against selling indulgences Luther formulated in 94 theses. On the 31st of October 1517, he fastened them on the door of the church in Wittenberg. Luther's theses aroused fierce polemics all over Germany. Supporters of Luther turned from criticism of indulgences to censuring Catholic dogmata as such. Then, Pope Leo X issued a bull where he threatened to excommunicate the free thinker. On December 10, 1520, Martin Luther burnt out publicly Pope's epistle before the city gates of Wittenberg. Pope's answer didn't make waiting. Luther, who was 37 then, was excommunicated. The excommunicated Martin Luther found shelter in a castle of Saxon prince, so that not to get into the clutches of the Inquisition. He started developing his own doctrine, then later on was called the Reformation. He came to the conclusion that the way of self-salvation is in the faith itself. This became the main postulate of Martin Luther's reformative doctrine. As opposed to Catholicism, that required formal execution of devotions, Protestantism was aimed at the heart of each believer. Luther asserted that relations between God and the man were of private nature and didn't require interference of the Church, that should only help people perceive the Bible. Martin Luther, one of the most well-educated theologians of his time, translated the Bible into German so that anyone could appeal to God through the text of the Bible. Luther only wanted to reform the Church, but his ideas found their own life. Each German, both a prince and a peasant, saw in the Reformation the chance to change life for the better. In 1524, a peasant war broke out in Germany. Luther was against people's revolt, and as a typical German bourgeois, he declared for violence against rebels and for restoring order. In 2 years the revolt was quelled, but by the time Germany had already become quite a different country. Lutheran Church was gaining more and more popularity, was getting more clear, open and free of icons and intricate ceremonies. Catholic monasteries were getting closed in many towns of Germany. A new public worship in German was being introduced. Priests were changing into preceptors of the believers and started marrying. At the age of 40, Luther himself married Catherine von Bora, a daughter of impoverished noblemen. They had 5 children. Luther continued delivering lectures to students and preaching his doctrine. And only his poor health made him leave Wittenberg and return to native Eisleben. The father of Reformation died in 1545. Martin Luther's fate was a striking example of the Reformation idea realization. A man from a rural family became an ideological leader and predestined the fate of Europe.